You can't call me that.
Mira Lawson had 3 secrets. 1. She was 3 months pregnant. 2. The father was Adrian Wolf, the most dangerous man in the city, the Tsar, who controlled the entire underworld. 3. He didn't know about either of the first 2 secrets. She had run from him 3 months ago, after a night that changed everything, because women like her didn't stay with men like him. At least that's what she thought. Until the day her abusive ex-boyfriend found her at the supermarket and destroyed what was left of her peace, in front of everyone. Before we start, nice to meet you. I'm Lena, the mind behind every story on this channel. I'm putting on screen the comments from Barbie Friedel and Maria. Thank you so much for commenting. And now, a personal question. If you had to talk to the mob boss, what would you say? Comment down below. Maybe your comment will appear in the next video. Chapter 1. The Encounter and the Humiliation.
I'll take it.
The gallery was lit with that golden light that made everything look more beautiful than it really was. It was my first solo exhibition, and I was way too nervous, watching people circulate among my canvases with expressions I couldn't decipher. Leah, my younger sister and best friend, was beside me with a glass of white wine in her hand, and that encouraging smile of hers. Mira, your work is incredible. Stop worrying so much. You're going to sell everything before the night's over. Trust me. I hope you're right, Leah, because I really need tonight to go well, I murmured, while adjusting my simple black dress, the one I chose specifically not to draw attention to my body. That body Caleb spent 3 entire years telling me was always getting fat, always needing corrections. That's when I saw him for the first time. He was standing in front of my favorite painting from the entire exhibition, that abstract landscape in shades of gray and dark blue that I had created on a sleepless, emotionally charged night. It was impossible not to notice him, because there was something deeply magnetic about the way he occupied the space around him. The suit was impeccable, and clearly tailored for that tall, muscular body, and when he turned his face in profile to study the painting better, I forgot to breathe for a full second. I approached without really thinking. That piece cost $15,000. He turned slowly, very slowly, and when our eyes finally met, I felt something happen in my chest. Something hot and scary. His eyes were such a dark green they looked almost black under that light. I'll take it, he said simply, without negotiating. I blinked in surprise. You didn't even ask about the technique, about the meaning. When something's worth it, you don't negotiate. He paused meaningfully. Did you paint this? Yes, I did. It's truly exceptional. You captured controlled chaos. Contained fury. He tilted his head, now studying my face with the same intensity. My name is Adrian. Mira Lawson, I answered, and my voice came out smaller than I wanted. It's a pleasure to meet you, Mira. He smiled slightly, just a curve at the corner of his mouth. May I have the honor of taking you to dinner? Everything about him screamed danger, in obvious and less obvious ways. I don't usually go out with my clients, and I don't usually ask for something twice from anyone. Something softened in his expression. But for you, I'll make an exception. And that's how, with my heart beating way too fast, I said yes to the man who would change my entire life forever. Dinner was at an exclusive restaurant I could never afford on my own, all decorated with crystal chandeliers and silent waiters. And Adrian asked me deep questions about art, and life, and dreams, with a completely focused attention that made me feel like I was the only person in the entire universe. I found myself telling him things I didn't tell anyone, not even Leah, especially about how Caleb had spent 3 years making me believe I was always getting fat, always needing to take better care of myself, always one step away from being abandoned. He manipulated you, Adrian said with a cold anger that made my spine tingle, and his fingers closed tightly around his whiskey glass. It was classic abuser psychological control, completely destroying your self-esteem to keep you dependent on his validation. He looked at me with an intensity that left me breathless. Mira, you're absolutely beautiful exactly the way you are. Any man who doesn't see that clearly is a complete idiot who doesn't deserve to even breathe the same air as you. No one had ever said anything like that to me before. No one had ever looked at me that way, as if I were precious and desirable without needing to change anything. I felt something inside me melt and rebuild at the same time. The night ended at his apartment, a minimalist and elegant space with enormous floor-to-ceiling windows that showed the entire city glittering below like a diamond necklace. When he kissed me for the first time, slow and deep and completely devastating, I knew I was lost in a way I'd never been before with anyone. His hands were both gentle and firm, touching me as if I were something valuable he was afraid to break, but couldn't stop holding. For the first time in my entire life, I felt genuinely, truly desired, really seen beyond the superficial layers, really enough without needing to change anything. I slept wrapped in his arms that night, with my head resting on his chest, and listening to the sound of his heart beating strong and steady, feeling safer than I'd felt in years. The next morning destroyed absolutely everything. I woke up with the sun coming through the windows, and my body still relaxed from a night that had changed something fundamental inside me. For one perfect moment, I just allowed myself to feel pure happiness. But then I saw the living room table when I got up to get water, and my blood froze in my veins. There were 3 guns there on the glass surface, clean and organized as if they were just another normal decoration item. My heart started beating so fast I thought it would explode. Adrian's phone rang in the bedroom, until he answered, still half asleep, with a grunt that quickly transformed into something completely different, something cold and deadly, and full of absolute authority. The North Territory is completely secure now. Great work. And what about the problem with the Ferretti family? I need you to completely eliminate the threat before it spreads to the other districts. Eliminate the threat. The words echoed in my head, while I dressed in silence in the guest bathroom, my hands shaking so much I could barely button my blouse. Suddenly everything made sense in a terrifying way. The way people moved away from him, the authority in his voice, the apartment that was way too expensive, the confidence of someone who never fears consequences. Adrian Wolf wasn't just dangerous, he was danger personified. He was the man the entire city feared. I left while he was still in the shower, leaving only a cowardly note on the nightstand. Thank you for the wonderful night, but our worlds are too different to work. And then I ran away from him, and from whatever we were starting to build, because women like me who wanted a safe life didn't stay with men like him. Adrian came back from the shower and found the note. Something inside him broke in a way he hadn't allowed in years. A sharp and unexpected pain that made him immediately call her number, only to discover she had blocked the contact, that she had deliberately cut all bridges between them. He searched for her tirelessly, using all available resources, all the contacts and all the power he had accumulated, but Mira Lawson had disappeared like smoke, and for the first time in his life, Adrian Wolf couldn't find what he wanted. 3 months later, the supermarket was packed for a Thursday afternoon, and I was pushing my cart with one hand while the other rested protectively on the belly that didn't show much yet, but already changed everything. I'd only come to buy the basics. Some fruits and vegetables and those ginger cookies that were the only thing that helped with the nausea that appeared at any time of day. My phone rang and I saw Leah's name flashing. Hi, Leah. Mira. Have you told him about the baby yet? I looked around to make sure no one was nearby before whispering. No, Leah. I don't know exactly how to tell him this. How do I do it? Hi? Remember me who ran away? Well, surprise. I'm pregnant with your child. He has the right to know, Mira. You can't keep hiding this from him forever. I know he has the right, but Leah, he's dangerous. What if he tries to control me because of the baby? What if he... Mira, my blood froze completely. I recognized that tone before I even turned. Caleb Stone was there, my ex-boyfriend of 3 years. Caleb, I said weakly. Leah, I'll call you back, I murmured before hanging up. He approached, invading my personal space like he always did. Wow, Mira, you're still that fat? I honestly thought after you finally dumped me, you'd take care of yourself properly and lose all those horrible extra pounds. The entire supermarket seemed to go silent. I felt strangers' eyes turning in our direction. Humiliation burned my face. Caleb, please, don't do this here in public, please. He cut me off with a loud performative laugh. What? I'm just being completely honest. You're even bigger than when we broke up, anyone can see. I warned you for 3 entire years, every single day, that you needed to work out more and eat less and take better care of yourself, but you never listened to me. And now, look at the result. I saw people taking out their phones, filming. Tears burned, but I fought against them. My hand automatically went to my belly, protecting the baby he didn't know existed. The few pounds that weren't about food, but about life growing. I'm not fat, Caleb. I just gained a few pounds because... Keep fooling yourself, Mira, he said cruelly, approaching until I could feel his breath near my face. I was literally the only man who would put up with you that horrible way, and you had the audacity to throw me away like trash. Good luck finding another sucker willing to pretend you're pretty. He grabbed my arm too hard, fingers digging into the skin. I felt panic rise in my throat, that horrible feeling of being trapped and small and without escape. And then a voice cut through the air like an icy blade. But I'm done listening. Everyone turned at once. My heart stopped when I saw Adrian Wolf coming out from behind a shelf, walking toward us with that magnetic and dangerous presence that made the air feel heavy. He was here after 3 months. The way he looked at me, with fury and relief, and something possessive shining in those dark green eyes, turned my world upside down. Adrian, I whispered. Caleb turned arrogant. Who the hell do you think you are to butt into my conversation with my ex? Adrian didn't answer. He just kept walking calmly until he was between me and Caleb, a solid human shield. When he finally spoke, his voice was ice cold. I'm the man who's going to give you exactly 5 seconds to let go of her arm before I break every bone in your hand. Caleb laughed nervously. Or what? She's my ex. I can say whatever I want. And I'm telling the truth. She got fat. 4, 3. Caleb suddenly let go of my arm, but the arrogance was still there. Look, man, this isn't your business. 2. That's when Jax appeared out of nowhere, accompanied by 2 other men. I saw the exact moment Caleb finally understood. 1. Wait! Caleb screamed, hands raised, face pale with terror. You're Adrian Wolf? The Czar? I didn't know that you two... I swear I didn't know. Now you know, Adrian said coldly, turning slightly to me, without taking Caleb out of his field of vision. Mira, Did he hurt you? I shook my head no. Adrian turned back to Caleb with a deadly expression. You humiliated her in public, in front of all these people, lying about her, manipulating, psychologically abusing like you probably did throughout your entire pathetic relationship. I was just joking. You know how exes are. I didn't mean to. Shut up before I change my mind about letting you leave here in one piece. Adrian turned to Jax. Take him. We're going to have a very long conversation later about consequences and respect. Jax grabbed Caleb by the arm. No, wait. Mira, tell him I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I promise I'll never talk to you again. I just watched in silence while Jax and the others dragged Caleb out, the screams of apologies fading away. Adrian turned to the people with phones. Anyone else want to make comments about her? Deadly silence. No? Great. Keep shopping and forget everything you saw here, because if I find out any video of this shows up online, I'm going to personally make sure every one of you regrets it deeply. People practically ran away. Then it was just the two of us in the empty aisle. Are you okay? He asked, and his voice had changed, become soft and concerned. The tears I'd held back so hard started falling without control. Adrian pulled me into a protective hug without hesitation. Shh, it's okay now. You're safe with me. I buried my face in his chest and cried. I cried for 3 years of abuse I endured. I cried for the 3 months of loneliness. I cried because he was here, and I didn't know how to tell him about the baby. Adrian gently guided me out of the supermarket, his hand firm on my lower back, while he practically carried me to his car, a black and expensive SUV. He helped me into the passenger seat before walking around and sitting in the driver's seat. I was still shaking, breathing coming in irregular sobs. Adrian placed his hand on my knee in a comforting and possessive gesture. Breathe deep, Mira. Just breathe slow. He's never going to touch you again. I guarantee that personally. You didn't need to do all that for me, I said weakly. I absolutely needed to do exactly that. He humiliated you publicly in front of dozens of people, made you cry, put his hands on you without permission. No one does that and gets away with it. Especially not with you. He sighed heavily and ran his hand through his hair. Mira, I searched for you for 3 entire months. 3 months without knowing if you were okay, if something had happened to you. Why the hell you ran away like that? I saw the guns on your table, Adrian. I heard you talking about eliminating threats and controlling territories. I got scared of what all that meant. You were scared of me? He asked, and there was something vulnerable in the way he said it. I was scared of your entire world, Adrian, of being part of something so dangerous when I just wanted peace and security. And you thought running was the solution? Adrian said, frustrated. I thought it was better for me, I stopped mid-sentence, almost revealing the pregnancy. Adrian noticed the hesitation immediately. For what, Mira? I looked away. For my life. He studied me intensely. You're hiding something from me right now. I know when someone's lying. I'm not hiding anything. I lied badly. Mira, I know when someone lies. What aren't you telling me? Adrian, I need to go home. I'll take you. You don't need to. I'm taking you, Mira. It's not a request, he said firmly, not accepting discussion. I sighed in defeat. Okay. During the drive, Adrian broke the silence. Did he always treat you that way? The ex? I took a deep breath, deciding to be honest about at least this. Yes, for 3 entire years. Every single day he made some comment about my body, saying I was getting fat even when I wasn't, that I needed to take better care of myself, work out more, eat less, until I started believing there was something wrong with me. Adrian's jaw visibly clenched. His fingers gripped the steering wheel hard. He systematically, psychologically manipulated you, Mira. You didn't gain weight absurdly. You gained a few completely normal pounds, and he used that as a weapon to control you. How do you know it was only a few pounds? I asked, surprised. Because I really pay attention to you, Mira. You're absolutely beautiful exactly the way you are. He just wanted to destroy your self-esteem so you'd depend on his pathetic validation and never have the courage to leave. Tears burned with relief. No one ever said that to me before, because you always deserved better than any of these idiots gave you. His voice became intense. I spent 3 months thinking about you every single day, Mira. About how you smile when you talk about art. About how your eyes shine when you're excited. About how you feel when I touch you. And seeing that asshole humiliate you with blatant lies made me want to destroy him completely. What are you going to do to him? I asked nervously. Let me worry about that. Please, Adrian, don't hurt him seriously, because if you do that for my sake, I'll carry that guilt. And I already carry enough weight without needing that too. Adrian was silent for a moment before finally nodding. Okay then, no physical violence, I promise. But he'll pay in other ways. I guarantee that. Thank you. We arrived at my building. Is this it? Yes. Thank you for everything, Adrian. For the ride and for protecting me like that. Mira, wait. He called before I got out. I want to see you again. For real this time. Without you running away in the middle of the night. Dinner with me tomorrow? I knew I needed to tell him about the baby. Maybe a dinner would be the best opportunity. Okay, dinner tomorrow. I'll pick you up at 7 sharp. See you tomorrow then. As soon as he confirmed I was safe inside the building, Adrian grabbed his phone and called Jax with an icy voice. Jax, I want absolutely everything on Caleb Stone. Work, family, debts, everything. And then you start making his life hell. No physical violence like I promised her, but everything else is completely allowed. I entered the apartment and found Leah pacing nervously back and forth with her phone in her hand. Mira, where were you? I called 20 times after you hung up like that. I let myself fall onto the couch completely exhausted. Caleb found me at the supermarket and humiliated me in front of everyone, saying I got fat, that no man wants me, putting on a complete show with people filming everything. That son of a bitch, Leah exploded furiously. Mira, you didn't gain weight in a problematic way. You gained a few pounds from the pregnancy, which is completely normal. I know it's normal, but hearing him say that in front of so many people was awful, Leah. And what happened after? How did you get out of there? Adrian showed up out of nowhere. Adrian? The baby's father? The Mafia czar Adrian? She practically screamed. Yes, that Adrian, I confirmed, and then told her everything in detail. How he appeared, how he protected me, how he threatened Caleb, how he brought me home. When I finished, Leah asked desperately, "And the baby? Did you tell him?" I shook my head negatively, holding my belly. I couldn't, Leah. I wanted to tell him, but how do I say something like that? Mira, you have to tell him. He has the right to know. You're already 3 months along. You can't hide it forever. I know. He wants to have dinner with me tomorrow night. I'll tell him then. I promise I will. Okay, but Mira, what? If he reacts badly or tries to control you because of the baby, I'm going to kill him personally. Mafia czar or not. Nobody messes with my sister. I laughed nervously. Noted, Leah. That night I stayed awake for hours, one hand on my still small belly, and my mind spinning non-stop, thinking about Adrian and Caleb and how everything had changed so fast, wondering if I'd have enough courage to tell the truth tomorrow, or if I'd chicken out again and lose the only real chance I had. But one thing I knew with absolute certainty, there was no more running, no more hiding, and tomorrow night everything was going to change one way or another. Leah was brave to say that to Czar, wasn't she? Could she be right to be suspicious of the father of Mira's children? Chapter 2. The Dinner and the Revelation.
I want this child.
What?
The next night arrived way too fast, and I was standing in front of my bedroom mirror, adjusting my simple navy blue dress for the 10th time while my stomach churned with nerves. It wasn't an extravagant dress, but it fit my body well and hid the belly that was starting to show the first signs of pregnancy. Leah was leaning against the bedroom door, watching me with that younger sister look that knew exactly what was going through my head. Are you going to tell him today? I am. I need to tell him, I answered, trying to sound more confident than I actually felt. I can't hide it anymore, Leah. He deserves to know the truth. You can do this, Mira. Just be honest with him. The doorbell rang at that exact moment, making my heart jump in my chest. I took a deep breath, fixed my hair one last time, and walked to the door with my legs shaking slightly. When I opened it, Adrian was standing there in an impeccable dark gray suit, and surprisingly, a bouquet of white roses in his hand. You brought flowers? I asked, without being able to hide the surprise in my voice. You deserve them, he said simply, handing me the bouquet before looking me up and down in a way that made heat rise up my neck. You look beautiful, Mira. I felt my face get hot. Thank you, Adrian. That's when Leah appeared behind me with that protective expression I knew so well. Adrian Wolfe, she said with a firm and serious voice. Take care of my sister, or I'll take care of you. Adrian almost smiled, just a slight curve at the corner of his mouth. Noted. The restaurant Adrian took me to was even more sophisticated than the first one where we had dinner 3 months ago. He guided me to a completely private area, separated from the rest of the dining room by elegant frosted glass dividers and heavy velvet curtains. I asked them to close off the private area. That way we won't have interruptions, Adrian explained as he pulled out the chair for me to sit. Do you always get everything you want? I asked, half joking, half serious. He sat across from me with that intense look. Usually yes, but you ran away from me, so I don't always get what I want. Guilt immediately squeezed my chest. Adrian, about that. Explain it to me, he interrupted with a firm but not aggressive voice. Why did you run away like that? I want the whole truth. I took a deep breath, preparing the words in my head. Because when I saw the guns on your table, when I heard you talking about business and eliminating threats, I realized you're really dangerous. And I wanted a normal life, safe, away from violence and everything your world represents. And you thought I'd be a danger to you? He asked, and there was something almost hurt in the way he said it. Not you directly, Adrian, but your entire world. I was scared of being part of that. Adrian leaned forward, resting his elbows on the table. Mira, I would never hurt you. Never. I know that now, I admitted quietly. But that morning I completely panicked. I didn't think straight. I just ran. And for 3 months you lived hiding from me? More or less. I paused, breathing deep and feeling my hands start to shake. Adrian, there's something I need to tell you. Something important. His expression immediately tensed. What? My hands were shaking so much I had to clasp them in my lap to hide it. When I ran from you, I didn't know anything yet, but I found out weeks later. Found out what, Mira? He asked with a controlled voice but full of urgency. Tears started burning in my eyes. I'm pregnant. 3 months. The baby is yours. The silence that followed was absolutely deafening. Adrian froze completely in place, his face going through a series of emotions so fast fast I could barely keep up. "What?" he finally said, and his voice came out hoarse and disbelieving. "I'm pregnant with our child," I repeated as tears started falling. "I found out after I ran from you and didn't know how to tell you, so I kept hiding." Adrian stood up abruptly from his chair, making it scrape on the floor. He started pacing back and forth with his hands in his hair, clearly trying to process the information. "You've been pregnant with my child for 3 entire months and didn't tell me?" I shrank in my chair. "I know, I should have told you earlier, but I was really scared." "Scared of what?" he practically shouted, turning to face me. "Of you not wanting the baby, of you trying to force me to do something I don't want, of you using the baby to control me." The words all came out at once, desperate. Adrian stopped in place, looking at me with an expression that mixed shock and something that looked like pain. "You really think I'd do that to you?" "I didn't know, Adrian. You're a mob boss. You kill people. I didn't know how you'd react to news like this." He breathed heavily several times, clearly fighting to control his emotions. "I need to process all this. Adrian, please." He came back to the table and sat down again, but this time leaned forward, looking at me with an intensity that almost made me melt in my chair. "Are you going to have the baby?" "Yes, I want to have it," I answered with conviction. "And do you want me to be part of this? Part of the baby's life?" The question caught me by surprise. "Do you want to be part of it?" Adrian ran his hand over his face, and when he spoke again, there was a vulnerability in his voice I'd never heard before. "Mira, I spent 3 entire months looking for you, thinking about you every single day, wondering where you were, if you were okay, if I'd done something wrong, and now you tell me you're carrying my child?" He made a heavy pause. "Of course I want to be part of this." Tears of relief ran down my face. "Really? You really want to?" He held my hand across the table, his large fingers wrapping around mine firmly. "I'm scared as hell, shocked, but I'm also happy, I think. This is a lot to process at once. I know, and I'm sorry for not telling you sooner, but you have to stop running from me, Mira," he said with a firm voice. "The baby is mine too. You don't get to decide everything alone about this." "I know. I'm so sorry for hiding it." His expression softened a bit. "When exactly did you find out? How are you feeling? Is the baby okay?" "I found out 2 weeks after our night together. I did all the tests, and everything's fine with the baby. I get nauseous sometimes, mainly in the morning, and I gained a few pounds because of the pregnancy." It was like a light bulb went off in his head. "The pounds that idiot Caleb used to humiliate you yesterday were because of the pregnancy?" I nodded in confirmation. "Yes, I wasn't gaining weight for no reason. It was the baby growing." The fury that crossed Adrian's face was absolutely terrifying. He grabbed his phone from his pocket immediately. "Jax, change all the plans regarding Caleb Stone. Intensify everything. I want his life completely destroyed." "Adrian, you don't need to," I tried to protest. He hung up and looked at me with deadly seriousness. "He humiliated you while pregnant with my child. That changes absolutely everything, Mira." I wanted to argue, wanted to ask him to have mercy, but the way he was looking at me now, with that possessive and fierce protection, made me realize some battles I wasn't going to win. Adrian had just found out he was going to be a father, and someone had dared to humiliate the mother of his child. Caleb didn't know it, but he had just dug his own grave much deeper. Chapter 3. Bianca and Possessiveness.
She's carrying my child.
The 3 days following dinner were a real avalanche of changes that left my head spinning non-stop. Adrian didn't waste time after finding out about the pregnancy, and suddenly I found myself in the middle of a hurricane of decisions he made with that absolute authority that seemed to come so naturally to him. "You're moving into my mansion," he announced the morning after dinner, showing up at my apartment with that determined expression I was already starting to recognize as non-negotiable. I was sitting on the couch with a cup of ginger tea in my hand, trying to control the morning sickness that insisted on appearing every single day. "Adrian, I can't just move into your house out of nowhere. You can, and you will," he said with that unshakable confidence. "You're pregnant with my child, Mira. I need to make sure you're safe and well taken care of. My world is dangerous, and now that people know about you, about us, you've become a potential target. But I have my life here, my apartment, my things. All of that can be transferred to the mansion," he answered simply, as if solving a basic math problem. "I'll arrange a team to pack your things carefully, especially your art supplies. You'll have a complete studio at the mansion, with all the natural light you need to paint." Leah, who was listening to everything from the kitchen, appeared in the living room at that moment. "Mira, I hate to admit this, but he's right. After what happened with Caleb at the supermarket, everyone knows you're involved with Adrian, and he has enemies, lots of dangerous enemies. You're on his side now?" I asked my sister incredulously. "I'm on the side of my sister's and my niece or nephew's safety," Leah responded, crossing her arms. "If his mansion is the safest place, then that's where you should go." And that's how, kind of against my will but understanding the logic behind it all, I ended up agreeing to move into Adrian Wolf's mansion 3 days after that conversation. The property was even more impressive than I'd imagined, with huge iron gates, high walls, security cameras everywhere, and armed guards strategically positioned at every entrance. Adrian showed me the mansion personally, guiding me through the wide and elegantly decorated hallways. The room he designated for me was a huge suite, with an absurdly comfortable king-size bed, a closet the size of my entire old apartment, and a marble bathroom with a jacuzzi tub that looked like it came out of a luxury magazine. "You don't have to sleep here if you don't want to," Adrian said, standing in the bedroom doorway, his hands in his dress pants pockets. "My room is at the end of the hall. The door's always open if you need anything, or if you want company." There was something loaded in the way he said that, but I chose to ignore it for now. "Thank you for all this, Adrian. I know you're doing this for the baby. I'm doing this for both of you," he corrected me immediately. "For you and the baby, because you're both important to me." In the following days, Adrian arranged absolutely everything I could possibly need. A private obstetrician came to the mansion to do a complete consultation, bringing portable ultrasound equipment and confirming that both the baby and I were perfectly healthy. There were guards positioned in 24-hour shifts throughout the property, serious and armed men that Adrian assured me were absolutely trustworthy and discreet. I was starting to get used to the new routine when she showed up. It was a Thursday afternoon, and I was in the mansion's back garden, sitting on a stone bench watching the flowers and trying to sketch a little in my sketchbook, when I heard the sound of high heels clicking hard on the stone path. I looked up and saw a woman approaching with determined and angry steps. She was beautiful, in an aggressive and calculated way, with perfectly blown-out blonde hair falling in waves down her back, a tight red dress that accentuated every curve of her slender body, and flawless makeup that looked like it had been applied by a professional. But what caught my attention most were her eyes, blue and icy, and full of a rage that seemed to burn. "Who the hell are you?" she asked when she got close enough, looking me up and down with barely disguised contempt. I closed my sketchbook slowly and stood up, trying to maintain composure even though I felt my heart racing. "My name is Mira, and you are?" "Bianca Thorne," she answered, as if the name should mean something to me. "I'm Adrian's girlfriend." "Ex-girlfriend." Adrian's voice cut through the air before I could respond with anything. I turned and saw him coming out of the mansion with long, quick steps, his expression absolutely furious. "Bianca, what are you doing here?" Bianca turned to him with a fake, sweet smile. "I came to visit you, darling, but imagine my surprise when I find this woman in your garden like she owns the place." Adrian reached us, and immediately positioned himself between me and Bianca protectively. "Mira isn't just any woman. She's the mother of my child." Shock crossed Bianca's face so fast I almost couldn't catch it, but it was quickly replaced by an even more intense rage. "You're kidding me? Mother of your child? Adrian, you always said you never wanted to have kids." "I said I never wanted to have kids with you, Bianca," Adrian corrected with deadly coldness in his voice. "With Mira, it's completely different." I saw hurt and anger fighting on her face. "How long have you known this woman?" "That's none of your business," Adrian answered simply. "We broke up over 6 months ago, Bianca." "You have no right to show up here asking questions about my life." "I have every right," she practically screamed. "We were together for 2 years, Adrian. 2 years of my life. And now you replace me with this nobody and even put a baby in her?" I felt anger rise in my chest at the insult. But before I could say anything, Adrian took a threatening step toward Bianca. "Watch what you say about her. Very carefully." Bianca laughed, but it was a bitter laugh full of venom. "She won't be able to handle your world, Adrian. Look at her. She's just a regular girl, scared, fragile. She doesn't have what it takes to survive beside a man like you. When things get really dangerous, when she truly realizes who she's getting involved with, she'll abandon you again." "Again?" Adrian asked with a dangerously low voice. Bianca smiled as if she'd won something. "You think I don't know she ran from you 3 months ago? That she left you and disappeared? Rumors spread fast in our world, darling." Adrian tensed, and I saw his jaw clench. "That's not your problem, Bianca. We resolved our issues. For now," Bianca said, with disdain, looking directly into my eyes with a clear challenge. "But when she realizes that being your woman means living in fear every day, when she understands that enemies will try to use her to get to you, when the danger becomes too real, she'll run again. And this time she'll take your child with her." Something inside me ignited at that provocation. I took a step forward, coming out from behind Adrian. "You don't know me well enough to know what I will or won't do." Bianca laughed again. "I know the type. I've seen several like you trying to hold on to men like Adrian, thinking they can change them, domesticate them. It never works." "Bianca, enough," Adrian said with a voice that didn't accept discussion. "You're leaving now, and you're never coming back. If I see you near Mira again, if I find out you tried anything against her, you'll regret it deeply." For a moment, I saw real fear pass through Bianca's eyes. She took a step back, but tried to maintain composure. "You're making a mistake, Adrian. She's not strong enough for your world. It's not your problem whether she is or isn't," Adrian responded coldly. "Now get off my property before I have my men remove you." Bianca shot me one last look full of rage and contempt, before turning and walking back to the exit, with her heels clicking furiously on the stones, a look that seemed to say this wasn't over yet. As soon as she disappeared from view, I felt my legs go weak, and I needed to sit back down on the bench. Adrian immediately knelt in front of me, his large hands holding mine carefully. "Are you okay? Did she scare you?" "I'm fine," I lied, because the truth was the encounter with Bianca had affected me more than I wanted to admit. Was she right about anything? About what? About me not being strong enough for your world? Adrian held my face with both hands, forcing me to look directly into his dark green eyes. You're stronger than you think, Mira. You survived 3 years with an abuser, managed to get out of that relationship. You're carrying our child and facing all these changes without falling apart completely. Don't let her poisonous words affect you. But she's right about one thing, I admitted quietly. I ran from you. I abandoned you. And you came back, he said firmly. Or rather, fate brought us together again. And this time I'm not letting you go. That night, after a silent dinner where we both got lost in our own thoughts, Adrian found me in the hallway near my room. Can I come in? Just to talk? I nodded yes, and we sat together on the edge of the huge bed. For a moment we stayed silent, until Adrian finally spoke. About the baby, have you thought about names? The question caught me by surprise. I haven't decided anything concrete yet. I don't even know if it's a boy or girl yet. When will you find out? At the next ultrasound, in a few weeks. Adrian hesitated before asking, Can I touch your belly? I felt my heart squeeze at the vulnerability in his voice. You can. He extended his hand slowly, almost fearfully, until he placed his large warm palm on my still small belly over the thin fabric of my blouse. His fingers spread protectively, and I saw a deep emotion pass over his face. There's a baby growing here, he said with a hoarse voice full of wonder. Our baby. There is, I confirmed, feeling tears burn in my eyes. Do you really want this, Adrian? Want to be a father? Be part of his or her life? He looked at me with an intensity that left me breathless. I want it more than I ever imagined I could want something, Mira. This baby, you, all of this is changing something inside me in a way I can't quite explain yet. I placed my hand over his that still rested on my belly. Let's figure it out together then. How to make this work. Adrian nodded, and we stayed like that for long minutes, just sitting together on the bed with our hands intertwined over the baby growing between us. And for the first time since I discovered the pregnancy, I felt that maybe everything really could work out. Mira had been suspicious since the pregnancy, out of fear, but soon she would discover that her fears were not unfounded. Chapter 4. Nathan Stone shows up.
She comes first.
A week had passed since I moved into Adrian's mansion, and I was starting to get used to the new routine when everything fell apart in a way I didn't expect. I was in the mansion's library that afternoon, a huge room full of dark wood shelves from floor to ceiling and comfortable leather armchairs, trying to focus on a book about motherhood that Adrian had bought for me, when I heard raised voices coming from his office downstairs. At first I tried to ignore it, but one of the voices was shouting too loud to be ignored, and the tone of anger was impossible not to notice. I closed the book slowly and went down the stairs carefully, my curiosity winning over the common sense to stay away from matters that clearly weren't my business. I stood outside the half-open office door, hidden in the hallway shadow, and that's when I recognized the furious voice. It wasn't Caleb, but there was an unmistakable similarity in the tone, something in the way of pronouncing words that made me immediately realize who it was. You completely destroyed my brother because of a woman? The voice was shouting with a rage that seemed almost palpable. You ruined Caleb's life, his job, his credit, his reputation, everything, because of an idiotic argument in a supermarket. It wasn't an idiotic argument, Nathan. Adrian's voice responded with that icy and dangerous calm I was already starting to recognize as a sign that he was really furious inside. Your brother humiliated the mother of my child while pregnant in front of dozens of people. He was very lucky I only destroyed his life instead of destroying him physically. The silence that followed was heavy and tense. Then Nathan's voice came back, this time with evident shock mixed with anger. Wait, she's pregnant. The woman is pregnant with your child. Yes, she's 3 months pregnant with my child, Adrian confirmed with a voice that left no room for questioning. So what? Is that your problem somehow? It is my problem when it directly affects our business, Nathan practically shouted back. You know Caleb is my brother Adrian. You think I'm just going to accept that you destroyed him because of some random woman? The sound of something hitting the wooden desk hard echoed through the hallway, and I jumped in fright. She's not some random woman, Nathan, and I suggest you choose very carefully the next words that come out of your mouth, Adrian said with a voice so deadly that even I felt a shiver run down my spine. Mira is the mother of my child. She's important to me, and if you or your brother try anything against her, you'll find out exactly how far I'm willing to go to protect what's mine. This completely changes the business between us, Nathan said after a moment of tense silence. You understand that, right? I can't keep working with someone who destroyed my brother. Then end the business, Adrian answered simply, and I could almost visualize the indifferent shrug that probably accompanied the words. Mira and my child are infinitely more important than any contract we have together. If you want to end our partnership because of this, then end it. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I heard heavy footsteps moving toward the door and quickly hid behind a decorative column in the hallway. Nathan Stone passed by me like a hurricane, his face red with anger and his hands closed in tight fists at his sides. He was older than Caleb, maybe around 40, with graying hair at the temples and an expensive suit that screamed money and power. But what caught my attention most was the way he stopped for a second at the door, turning slightly as if he wanted to say something more, before simply leaving and slamming the door hard. I waited a few minutes in silence, my heart beating way too fast in my chest, before slowly approaching the office door. Adrian was standing with his back to the entrance, his hands resting on the huge mahogany desk, and his head down as if trying to calm himself. "Adrian?" I called softly from the door. He turned immediately, and his expression softened a bit when he saw me standing there. "Mira, how long have you been there?" "Long enough to hear the whole conversation," I admitted, entering the office slowly. "That was Nathan Stone, Caleb's brother." Adrian sighed heavily and ran his hand through his hair, messing up the dark strands in a way that made him look younger and less threatening. "Yes, that was him. He came to confront me about what I did to Caleb." I bit my lower lip, guilt starting to squeeze my chest like a vice. "Adrian, I'm causing problems in your business. You just lost a partner because of me. You're not causing any problems," he interrupted me immediately, coming around the desk and walking toward me with determined steps. "Nathan chose to make this a problem. I did what I had to do to protect you, and I'd do it all again without hesitating a second. But your business, the contracts with him..." Adrian held my face with both large, warm hands, forcing me to look directly into his green eyes. "Mira, listen to me carefully. You and the baby are my absolute priority now. Business gets resolved, contracts can be remade with other people, partnerships come and go. But you, our child, that's irreplaceable. That's what really matters." I felt tears burn in my eyes. "I don't want you to lose important things because of me." "You still don't get it, do you?" he said with an intensity that left me breathless. "You are the important thing. You and the baby are what I can't lose. Everything else is secondary." Before I could respond with anything, my phone rang in my dress pocket. I grabbed it and saw it was Leah calling. "Hi, Leah. Mira, have you seen social media?" Her voice was tense and worried on the other end of the line. "No. Why? What happened?" "There are pictures of you and Adrian circulating. Pictures of you guys leaving the mansion. Pictures of him helping you into the car. Pictures of you clearly pregnant. And the comments, Mira. People are saying a lot of bad things." I felt my stomach sink. "What kind of bad things?" Leah hesitated before answering. "People saying you got pregnant on purpose to trap him. That you're a gold digger after his money. That he deserves better. That kind of horrible stuff." Adrian noticed my expression changing and immediately grabbed his own phone, his fingers flying over the screen while searching social media. His jaw clenched when he found what he was looking for, and the fury that crossed his face was absolutely terrifying. "Who's spreading these photos and these rumors?" he asked with a deadly voice. "I'm not sure exactly," Leah answered on the other end of the line, "but the first post seemed to have come from an account with the name Bianca Thorne." Adrian closed his eyes for one long second, clearly trying to control his anger. "I'll take care of this." "Adrian, what are you going to do?" I asked as soon as I hung up with Leah. "I'm going to do what I should have done the first time Bianca showed up here," he said, picking up the landline from the desk and dialing a number with quick, precise movements. "Jax, I need you in my office now, and bring everything you can get on Bianca Thorne's recent activities." In the following minutes, while we waited for Jax to arrive, Adrian made me sit in one of the comfortable leather armchairs and brought me a glass of water. "You're not going to believe anything that's being said online, right? You know it's none of that." "I know," I answered, drinking the water slowly, "but that doesn't stop it from hurting. I'm going to end this," he promised with absolute conviction. "Bianca is going to deeply regret trying to attack you this way." Jax arrived a few minutes later, entering the office with a tablet in his hand, and that silent efficiency that seemed to characterize him. "Boss, I managed to trace the origin of the posts. It definitely came from Bianca Thorne's account, and she's using bots to amplify the reach and make it seem like more people are sharing than really are." "Great," Adrian said with a cold smile that had nothing cheerful about it. "Then we're going to use exactly the same methods against her. I want you to expose all the illegal business she's involved in, all the lies she's told, everything you can find that's rotten about her. And I want it on social media by the end of the day." "But Adrian," I tried to protest, "won't that make you look as bad as her?" He knelt in front of me, holding my hands firmly. "Mira, in my world, when someone attacks what's mine, I strike back with full force. Bianca tried to destroy you publicly, tried to ruin your reputation and make you look like something you're not. She's not going to get away with this." And in that moment, seeing the fierce determination in his eyes, I completely understood what it meant to be with Adrian Wolfe. He wasn't just dangerous to his enemies, he was absolutely ruthless when it came to protecting the people he loved. Chapter 5. Caleb attempts public revenge.
She's mine.
2 weeks had passed since the confrontation with Nathan Stone, and life at Adrian's mansion had found a kind of strange but functional routine. I painted in the studio he had set up for me during the mornings, rested in the afternoons when the nausea got worse, and had dinner with Adrian every night, while we talked about the baby and about the future we were trying to build together. That specific night, Adrian had convinced me to go with him to a charity event organized by one of the city's most influential families. I had resisted at first, still feeling insecure about appearing publicly beside him after everything that had happened with Bianca and social media, but he insisted it would be good for me to get out of the mansion for a bit. "You can't hide forever, Mira," he had said, while helping me choose an elegant dark green dress that disguised well the belly that was starting to become more evident. "And I want everyone to see that you're with me, that we're in this together." The event hall was impressive, all decorated with huge white flowers and crystal chandeliers that reflected light in thousands of different directions. There were hundreds of elegantly dressed people, circulating with champagne glasses in their hands, talking in small groups and laughing in that artificial way rich people do at social events. Adrian guided me through the hall with his hand firm on my lower back, introducing me to important people whose names I forgot seconds after hearing them. I was starting to relax a little, even enjoying the night, when the main doors of the hall opened with a violent bang that made everyone immediately stop talking. Caleb Stone stumbled into the hall, clearly drunk, with wrinkled clothes and disheveled hair in a way that made him look almost unrecognizable compared to the arrogant man who had humiliated me at the supermarket weeks ago. He had lost weight. The expensive clothes that used to fit him well now looked too loose on his thin body, and there was a wild desperation in his eyes that made me take an instinctive step back. "There she is!" Caleb shouted, pointing directly at me across the crowded hall, and his voice echoed way too loud in the shocked silence. "Saint Mira Lawson! Pretending to be innocent, but she's pregnant with another man while she was still with me." I felt my blood freeze in my veins. Adrian immediately positioned himself in front of me, blocking Caleb's view, but it was too late. Everyone in the hall was already looking, and I saw camera flashes starting to go off as reporters present at the event rushed to get the best position. "She deceived me for months," Caleb continued shouting as he stumbled further into the hall, the event's security guards hesitating to touch him because of the scandal that was clearly forming. "Pretended to be so proper, so pure, but look at her now, pregnant with her rich lover while making a fool out of me." "Caleb, shut up now before you regret it," Adrian said, with a voice so cold and deadly, it made half the people around take a step back instinctively. But Caleb was beyond the point of caring about threats or common sense. The drunkenness and desperation had taken from him any sense of self-preservation he might still have had. "You don't even know her properly, Wolf. You think you know her, but you don't. She's manipulative. A liar. She's the woman I love." Adrian interrupted him with a voice that echoed clear and firm throughout the silent hall. "She's the mother of my child, and you're absolutely nothing but an abusive and pathetic ex-boyfriend who can't accept rejection." The silence that followed was absolute. I could hear my own heart beating irregularly in my chest, could feel the stares of hundreds of people fixed on us, could see the camera flashes increasing in intensity and frequency. Adrian had just said he loved me, in public, in front of everyone. "Yes, she's pregnant," Adrian continued, turning slightly so he could include the entire shocked audience in his words. "Pregnant with my child. Is that anyone's problem here?" No one answered. No one dared even breathe too loud. Adrian turned back to Caleb with an expression of pure contempt. "You want to know the truth, Caleb? The truth is that you spent 3 years destroying Mira's self-esteem, making her believe she wasn't good enough, that she was always flawed, always needing to be fixed. You manipulated and psychologically abused her because it was the only way to keep her trapped in a relationship with a man as pathetic as you." Caleb took a stumbling step forward. "You don't know anything about us." "I know enough," Adrian responded coldly. "I know she dumped you because she finally woke up and realized she deserved better. I know you can't accept that she found someone who treats her the way she deserves to be treated. And I know you're here now, drunk and desperate, putting on this pathetic show because your entire life fell apart, and you need to blame someone other than yourself." Jack suddenly appeared beside Adrian, accompanied by 3 other large security guards. "Boss, want us to remove him?" "Yes," Adrian said without taking his eyes off Caleb, "and do it discreetly if possible. He's already caused enough of a scandal for one night." The guards moved fast and efficient, grabbing Caleb by the arms before he could resist. "No, let go. I'm not finished. You all need to know the truth about her. The only truth that matters," Adrian said loud enough for everyone to hear while the guards dragged Caleb out, "is that Mira Lawson is mine. She's the woman I chose, the mother of my child, and whoever dares to touch her or speak badly of her answers directly to me." I expect everyone understood that clearly. The warning hung in the heavy air of the hall. People nodded. Some murmured confirmations. Others simply stayed in shocked silence. Adrian turned to me then, completely ignoring the hundreds of stares fixed on us and the cameras still filming everything. "Are you okay? Did he scare you?" I could barely process everything that had just happened. You said you love me, in front of everyone." "Yes, I did," he answered simply, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. Because it's true. I love you, Mira. Tears started burning in my eyes. But you'd never said that before. I know, and I should have said it a long time ago, he admitted, holding my face carefully. But I'm saying it now, in front of witnesses, so there's no doubt about how I feel. I don't know what to say, I whispered. You don't need to say anything now, he responded with a soft voice. You just need to know it's true, and that I'll protect you and our child from anything and anyone, no matter the cost. The people around us started moving away discreetly, returning to their own conversations, but clearly still processing everything they had witnessed. The charity event continued, but I knew what had happened there that night would be a headline in every newspaper and gossip site in the city the next morning. Adrian Wolf, the feared czar of the underworld, had publicly declared his love for the pregnant mother of his child. He had made it clear to the entire world that I was his, and that he would protect me at any cost. And for the first time since I discovered the pregnancy, I felt truly safe. Because it didn't matter what Caleb or Bianca or anyone else tried to do, Adrian was by my side, and he had just proven he wasn't afraid to show that to the entire world. I don't know about you, but I think Mira should have gotten married right then and there after that declaration of love. Chapter 6. Bianca sabotages, plus.
This ends now.
The days following the charity event were a true media storm I wasn't remotely prepared to face. The headlines were everywhere, in print newspapers, news sites, social media, primetime television programs. The Tsar declares love publicly. Adrian Wolf acknowledges paternity at charity event. Mira Lawson, who is the woman who conquered the heart of the city's most dangerous man? But not everything was positive or romantic as the main headlines suggested. Between the lines, in the comments on posts, in smaller articles on lesser-known gossip sites, there was a poison spreading quickly like an invisible but deadly plague, and I knew exactly where this poison was coming from. Bianca Thorne had decided that if she couldn't have Adrian, then she'd do everything to completely destroy me. The first publications appeared 3 days after the event, on gossip blogs specializing in scandals involving rich and powerful people. Anonymous, but clearly well-informed posts that insinuated terrible things about me and about how I had won over Adrian. According to these malicious rumors, I had gotten pregnant on purpose to trap a rich and powerful man, had coldly calculated every step of my approach to him, had taken advantage of the night we spent together to guarantee my financial future. She knew exactly what she was doing, one of the posts said with poisonous certainty. Women like Mira Lawson are experts at identifying rich targets and getting themselves pregnant purposely to guarantee alimony and a luxurious lifestyle. Adrian Wolf is just another victim of an experienced gold digger. Leah called me furious after reading the first posts. Mira, this is absurd. Who's spreading these horrible lies about you? You need to sue someone. It's Bianca, I answered with a tired voice, sitting on the couch in the mansion's huge living room with my laptop on my lap, showing more and more defamatory publications. She's using fake accounts and third-party blogs to spread this, but I know she's behind it all. Does Adrian know? I haven't told him yet. He's already dealing with business problems because of Nathan Stone. I don't want to add more worry to his plate. Mira, you need to tell him. He's going to be furious if he finds out you hid this from him. But before I could answer anything, I heard Adrian's voice coming from the hallway. Hid what from me? I turned startled and saw him standing in the living room entrance with that serious expression that meant he knew something was wrong. Adrian, I didn't want to worry you. He approached and sat beside me, taking the laptop from my hands and reading the publications open in the browser tabs. I saw his jaw progressively clench as he read each poisonous word, each unfounded accusation, each malicious insinuation about me and about my intentions. How long has this been going on? He asked with a dangerously controlled voice. 3 days. It started right after the charity event. Adrian continued reading in silence for a few more minutes, before finally closing the laptop harder than necessary. This has Bianca's mark on every word written. I know, but I don't have concrete proof it's her. I'll get the proof, he said, already pulling his phone from his pocket. And when I do, she'll deeply regret trying to destroy you this way. A week later, when I thought things were starting to calm down a bit, Adrian convinced me to go with him to a charity gala organized by the city's business elite. It was an even bigger and more important event than the previous one, with the presence of influential politicians, billionaire businessmen, and local celebrities. I had initially resisted, still feeling vulnerable because of everything being said about me online, but Adrian insisted it was important to show we weren't afraid of the malicious gossip and attempts to separate us. If we hide now, they'll think the accusations are true, he argued, while helping me choose a long silver gala dress that disguised well the 4-month belly that was starting to become too evident to hide. We need to show we're together and strong, that no lie will affect us. The event started well enough. Adrian introduced me to several important people, keeping his hand possessively on my waist the whole time, making it clear to anyone looking that I was with him and under his protection. But then he needed to step away for a few minutes for an urgent business conversation with one of the investors present. And that's when everything fell apart quickly. I was alone near the bar getting a glass of orange juice when 3 elegantly dressed women approached me with fake smiles and eyes cold as ice. I recognized one of them as the wife of an important businessman Adrian had introduced me to earlier, but the other 2 were complete strangers to me. "So you're the famous Mira Lawson," the woman in the middle said, with a tone of voice that sounded superficially friendly, but carried a badly disguised venom underneath. "The woman who finally managed to trap Adrian Wolfe with a convenient pregnancy." I felt my stomach sink. "That's not how it happened." "Of course not," another woman said with a condescending smile. "I'm sure it was all completely accidental and unplanned, right?" The third woman laughed softly, a cruel sound full of disdain. "Honey, we all know how these things work. A smart woman identifies a rich and powerful man, secures a quick pregnancy, and that's it. She's financially set for the rest of her life." "I didn't do that," I protested, feeling tears start to burn in my eyes. "I love Adrian. The pregnancy wasn't planned by either of us." "How convenient that you say that now," the first woman said, crossing her arms over her chest. "But tell me something. How much is he paying you monthly? It must be a generous amount for you to agree to carry his child and pretend there's love involved in all this." "He's not paying me anything. I'm not with Adrian for money." The women exchanged meaningful looks among themselves, as if my words only confirmed what they already believed. Other people started approaching, attracted by the conversation that was getting progressively louder and more tense, and I felt humiliation burn my entire face when I realized we were starting to attract a curious audience. "Look, honey, you don't need to be defensive," one of the women said with false kindness. "We completely understand your situation. You're an ordinary woman without money or important connections. You saw an opportunity to change your life and took it. There's no shame in admitting that. But there is shame in getting pregnant on purpose to trap a man," another woman added with a cruel smile. "Especially when that man is Adrian Wolfe, who could have any woman he wanted but ended up stuck with you because of a baby." The tears finally started falling down my face without control. I tried to move away from that cruel group of women, but they practically formed a circle around me, cornering me while continuing with the malicious comments and invasive questions about how much money Adrian gave me, if the baby was really his, or if I'd gotten pregnant with someone else and was trying to make him believe he was the father. "Excuse me, I need to leave," I managed to say between sobs, as I finally found a gap in the circle of women and ran toward the exit of the main hall. I went out to the event venue's outdoor garden, the cold night air hitting my tear-wet face, and leaned against a marble column trying to catch my breath and control the crying that didn't seem to want to stop. Everything those women had said echoed in my head in a cruel and incessant loop, each poisonous word cutting deeper than the last. "Mira," I turned and saw Adrian approaching quickly with an expression of pure concern on his face. "What happened? Why are you crying?" I can't take this anymore, Adrian," I said between uncontrolled sobs. "I can't take people thinking I trapped you with the pregnancy, that I'm with you only for money, that I'm a calculating gold digger who got pregnant on purpose." He pulled me into a tight hug, one hand stroking my hair while the other held me firm against his chest. "Who said these things to you?" A group of women in there. They surrounded me and started asking horrible questions, saying everyone knows I trapped you, asking how much you pay me per month. I felt Adrian become completely tense in my arms. "Who said that?" "I don't know all their names, but one was the wife of the businessman you introduced me to earlier, the one with short blonde hair." Adrian pulled back slightly to look at my face, wiping the tears with his thumbs. "Robert Castellano's wife?" I nodded in confirmation. The fury that crossed his face was absolutely terrifying. "Stay here. I'll be right back." "Adrian, don't do anything you'll regret." "The only thing I'll regret is not doing this sooner," he said with an icy voice before going back inside the hall with determined and furious steps. I stood there in the garden for a few minutes, hearing raised voices coming from inside, but unable to distinguish the exact words. Then Adrian came back with Jax beside him, and the expression on both their faces was dark and serious. "Jax just confirmed what I suspected," Adrian said with his voice still loaded with barely contained anger. "Bianca is behind all this. She planted these rumors specifically among the important businessmen's wives, knowing they wouldn't resist the opportunity to humiliate you in public." "How do you know it was her?" "Because one of the women who attacked you just admitted that Bianca approached her last week with confidential information about you and about how you had planned the pregnancy to trap me," Adrian explained with disdain. "She systematically spread these lies, choosing specific targets she knew would be cruel enough to attack you openly." I felt a new anger burn in my chest, partially replacing the humiliation and sadness. "She really hates me that much?" "She hates the fact that you have what she always wanted," Adrian said, holding my face carefully. "My love, my attention, my child, and because she can't have those things, she decided to try to destroy you. What are you going to do?" A cold, humorless smile crossed his face. "I'm going to do what I should have done from the beginning. I'm going to destroy Bianca Thorne. And this time, I'm going to do it in a way she'll never forget." Chapter 7. Adrian destroys Bianca.
You're finished.
Adrian didn't waste time after that humiliating night at the gala. The next morning, he was on the phone making strategic calls since 6 in the morning, organizing something he refused to fully explain to me despite my insistent questions. All he said was that I needed to trust him, and that Bianca was finally going to pay for everything she'd done. 3 days later, I received a new dress delivered to the mansion with a note written in Adrian's own handwriting. "Wear this tonight. There's going to be an important event, and I need you by my side. Trust me." The dress was absolutely stunning. A deep navy blue that perfectly matched my eyes, made in a fluid fabric that accommodated my 4-month belly elegantly without trying to hide it. It was clear Adrian wanted everyone to see I was pregnant, that there was no shame or secret in it. That night, when Adrian came to get me from the bedroom already dressed in an impeccable black suit that made him look even more dangerous and powerful than normal, he looked at me with an intensity that made my heart race. "You look absolutely beautiful, Mira. Perfect. Where exactly are we going?" I asked as he guided me to the car with his hand protectively on my back. "To an event I organized specifically for today," he answered with a smile that had something predatory in it. "I managed to gather all the important people in the city in one place: businessmen, politicians, members of high society, and, of course, certain people from my world who need to hear what I have to say." My stomach clenched nervously. "Adrian, what are you planning?" "Justice," was all he said, before helping me into the car. The event was being held at one of the city's most luxurious hotels, in a huge hall on the top floor with a panoramic view of the entire city lit up below. When we arrived, I was shocked by the number of people present. There were easily over 200 people there, all dressed in their finest clothes, all talking in groups while drinking expensive champagne and eating delicate canapés served by discreet waiters. I recognized several faces from previous events, including the women who had humiliated me at the gala last week. They looked at me with expressions that ranged between surprise and discomfort when they saw me enter beside Adrian, but it was when I saw Bianca Thorne standing near the bar that everything made sense. Adrian had organized this entire event specifically to confront her publicly, in front of everyone who mattered. Bianca was stunning as always, wearing a low-cut red dress that deliberately drew attention, but when her eyes met mine, I saw a flash of something like fear pass quickly across her face, before being replaced by the usual mask of arrogant confidence. Adrian guided me to the center of the hall, where there was a small stage with a microphone already prepared. My heart started beating uncontrollably when I realized he was going to make some kind of public speech. He stepped onto the stage with that magnetic presence that made all conversations immediately stop. All people turned to pay attention. The silence that took over the hall was absolute and heavy with expectation. "Good evening, everyone," Adrian began with a firm and controlled voice that projected natural authority. "I know many of you are wondering why I organized this last-minute event, and why I insisted so much that everyone attend." He made a deliberate pause, letting the suspense build. "The truth is, I need to clear up some rumors that have been circulating recently about me and about the woman by my side, Mira Lawson, who is 4 months pregnant with my child." Low murmurs started going through the hall. I saw Bianca become visibly tense near the bar. "These rumors," Adrian continued with his voice getting harder, "were spread deliberately and maliciously by someone in this room. Someone who decided that if they couldn't have what they wanted, then they'd do everything to destroy what I've built." All heads started turning, people searching through the hall, trying to identify who would be the target of Adrian's accusations. "Bianca Thorne," Adrian said her name loud and clear, pointing directly to where she was standing with her face getting progressively paler. "You spread deliberate lies about Mira. You told half the world she got pregnant on purpose to trap me, that she's a gold digger after my money, that she manipulated the entire situation to guarantee her financial future." Bianca raised her chin defiantly, despite the obvious fear in her eyes. "I only told the truth. Everyone knows women like her get pregnant on purpose to trap rich men." "The truth?" Adrian laughed, but it was a sound completely without humor. "Let me tell you what the real truth is then, Bianca. The truth is that I pursued Mira from the first moment I saw her. I bought her art, I invited her to dinner, I seduced her. The pregnancy wasn't planned by either of us, but when I found out about the baby, I wanted to be part of it immediately. I love her. I love our child who isn't even born yet, and you're just a bitter and resentful ex-lover who can't accept rejection." The entire hall went into absolute silence. Bianca looked like she'd been slapped. "But the lies weren't all you did, were they?" Adrian continued, with his voice getting even more dangerous. "You also used connections I gave you, businesses I covered for you, to try to hurt me and hurt Mira." He made a gesture, and Jax appeared carrying a huge folder of documents. Adrian took some papers and started reading aloud. "Illegal importation of goods through the South Port, using contacts I introduced you to, money laundering through the art gallery I financed for you, bribery of public officials using confidential information you obtained through me." Each accusation Adrian read made Bianca paler, more desperate. She tried to speak several times, but no sound came from her throat. "During our entire relationship, I covered these illegal activities because I thought you deserved a chance," Adrian said with disdain. "But you used this protection I gave you to try to destroy the woman I love. So now that protection is completely over. He looked directly at Bianca with deadly coldness. From this moment on, you're alone, Bianca. All your illegal businesses are being exposed to the proper authorities. All the connections you had through me are permanently cut. All the money you made using my name and my influence will be confiscated. You tried to destroy Mira, so now I destroy you. Bianca finally found her voice, but it came out desperate and shrill. Adrian, you can't do this. I'll lose everything. Exactly, he answered simply. Just like you tried to make Mira lose everything when you spread lies about her. Adrian turned to the shocked audience then, making a point to look each important person in the eyes. Before continuing to speak, I want to make one thing absolutely clear to everyone present here today, he said, with a voice that left no room for misunderstanding. Mira Lawson is my partner. She's the mother of my child. She's the woman I chose to be by my side. And any person who dares to mess with her, who dares to spread lies about her, who dares to try to harm her in any way, will answer directly to me. Is that clear enough? The silence that followed was absolute. People nodded quickly. Others murmured nervous confirmations. But everyone perfectly understood the message. Adrian Wolfe had just declared war against anyone who tried to harm me. He came down from the stage and came directly to me, taking my hand and intertwining our fingers possessively. Let's go. I said everything I needed to say here. As we walked toward the exit, people moved aside, creating a wide path for us to pass. I looked back one last time and saw Bianca still standing near the bar, completely destroyed, with tears running down her perfect makeup, as she realized she had lost absolutely everything. In the car, I finally found my voice. Adrian, you didn't need to do all that. Yes, I did, he interrupted me firmly, holding my hand while he drove. She tried to destroy you publicly, tried to ruin your reputation, humiliated you repeatedly. No one does that to you and gets away with it, Mira. No one. But now you've made enemies. I already had enemies, he said simply. The difference is that now everyone knows exactly what happens to those who try to mess with what's mine. And you're mine, Mira. You and our child are mine to protect. Chapter 8. Nathan vs. Adrian Plus.
I've got you.
War. The 2 weeks following the event where Adrian publicly destroyed Bianca were surprisingly calm on the surface, but I could feel a growing tension in the mansion's air that made me increasingly nervous. Adrian spent hours locked in his office, making tense calls in a low voice. Jax and other trusted men came and went from the property at all hours of day and night, and the guards around the mansion had been doubled without any clear explanation. I was 5 months pregnant now, my belly finally rounded unmistakably, and the baby had started moving inside me in small movements that filled me with joy, but also growing concern. Something was happening in Adrian's world, something dangerous and serious, but he refused to tell me the details every time I asked. Just some business problems, Mira. Nothing you need to worry about, he always said with that tone that didn't accept further questions. I'll take care of everything. You just need to rest and take care of our baby. But then, everything exploded in a way I could no longer be protected from. It was a Tuesday afternoon, and I was in the art studio trying to paint, but my hands were shaking too much to hold the brush properly. I'd heard Adrian shouting on the phone earlier, something about South Territory and betrayal, and the tension in his voice had deeply scared me. That's when I heard gunshots. The sound echoed way too loud, way too close, coming from somewhere outside the mansion, and my blood instantly froze. I dropped the brush and ran to the window, seeing armed men running through the garden in tactical formations while more shots were fired. The studio door opened violently, and Jax entered with a gun in his hand and a serious expression. Mira, you need to come with me now. The mansion is under attack. Attack? What's happening? Where's Adrian? I screamed in panic. Adrian is dealing with the situation outside. My orders are to take you to the safe room in the basement immediately. Now, Mira. Jax grabbed me by the arm and practically dragged me out of the studio, going down the stairs quickly while I heard more gunshots and screams coming from various directions. My heart was beating so fast I thought I would faint, one hand protectively on my belly while trying not to trip over my own feet. The safe room was exactly what the name suggested, a small reinforced room in the mansion's basement with steel walls, no windows, and a complex lock system on the door. Jax gently pushed me inside and started closing the heavy door. Don't leave here until me or Adrian come get you personally, he ordered. Understood? No matter what happens out there, you stay here protected. Jax, please, tell me what's happening. But he had already closed the door, and I heard the locks being activated from outside, leaving me completely alone in the muffled silence of the safe room. I stayed there for hours that felt like entire days, sitting on the cold floor with my back against the steel wall and my hands on my belly, talking quietly to the baby to try to calm myself. The gunshots had stopped a long time ago, but the silence that followed was almost worse, because I had no idea what had happened, if Adrian was okay, if anyone had gotten hurt. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, I heard the locks being unlocked. The door opened, and Adrian entered, his clothes dirty and slightly torn in some places, a small cut on his forehead bleeding slowly, but alive and relatively intact. "Adrian!" I shouted, getting up too fast and almost tripping. He caught me in his arms before I could fall, holding me firm against his chest. "It's all okay now. You're safe. The danger has passed," he murmured against my hair, but I felt his hands shaking slightly as he held me. "What happened? Who was shooting? Why was the mansion attacked?" Adrian pulled back slightly to look at my face, wiping tears I hadn't even realized were falling. "Come with me. I need to explain everything. You deserve to know the truth about what's happening." He guided me back upstairs, passing armed men cleaning up debris and fixing broken windows, until we reached his office where he carefully closed the door before making me sit in one of the comfortable armchairs. "Remember Nathan Stone, Caleb's brother who came here to confront me weeks ago?" Adrian began serving himself a glass of whiskey, with hands that still trembled slightly. "I remember. You said you'd cut business with him." "I did, but what I didn't expect was that Nathan would be stupid enough to betray much bigger deals because of personal revenge." Adrian took a sip of whiskey before continuing. "He approached a rival of mine, Victor Kozlov, who runs operations in the city's East Zone and who's been trying to take my territory for years. Nathan gave confidential information to Victor about my transport routes, about weak points in my security, about everything that could be used against me." I felt my stomach sink. "Why would he do that?" "Revenge," Adrian said simply. "Revenge because I destroyed his abusive brother's life. Revenge because I chose you and our child over keeping a lucrative business partnership with him. Nathan decided that if I was going to cause problems for his family, then he'd cause much bigger problems for me. And today's attack was Victor trying to take advantage of the information Nathan gave him. He thought he could catch me off guard, take the mansion, and force me to cede territory." Adrian smiled coldly. "He was very wrong, but this is my fault," I whispered, feeling guilt squeeze my chest. "If you hadn't protected me from Caleb, if you hadn't destroyed his life, none of this would have happened." Adrian was in front of me in 2 large steps, kneeling and holding my face with both hands. "No, you're not going to take blame for this, Mira. I made the choices I made consciously. I destroyed Caleb because he humiliated you while pregnant. I cut business with Nathan because he wanted to make it a problem. I protected you and our child because it's my responsibility and my desire to do so. The consequences of those choices are mine to carry, not yours. But people could have died today. You could have died. But I didn't," he said firmly. "And none of my men died either. We lost some guards with minor injuries, but everyone will recover completely. And now, what's going to happen?" Adrian stood up and went to the window, looking at the garden outside where men still worked fixing the damage. "Now I end this once and for all. Victor declared war when he attacked my home with you inside, and war is something I know how to do very well." In the following 3 days, Adrian practically disappeared from the mansion, leaving early every morning and returning late at night, always tired and tense, but refusing to give me details about what he was doing. I spent the days nervous and scared, with more guards than ever around me, practically a prisoner inside the mansion itself, because Adrian had strictly forbidden me to leave until the situation was completely resolved. "I'm not going to hide like a coward," I argued with him on the 3rd night when frustration finally exploded. "All this is happening because of me. I should be able to do something." "It's not because of you, Mira," he shouted back, his patience finally running out too. "It's because of my choice to protect you, my choice to put you and our child above everything else. You think I regret that? That I'd change anything? I don't want you to die protecting me. And I'm not going to die," he said with absolute conviction. "But I need you to trust me and stay safe here while I take care of this. Please, Mira, for our baby, stay safe." I gave in because I saw the real desperation in his eyes, the genuine fear that something could happen to me or the baby. So I stayed in the mansion like a good prisoner, while Adrian fought a war out there I couldn't see. On the 4th day, Adrian finally came home with a tired but genuine smile on his face. "It's over. Victor is dead. His operations have been absorbed by my allies and the territory is secure again. And Nathan?" "Nathan," Adrian said with a cold smile, "lost absolutely everything. I found out he had investments in several legal companies that depended on licenses and government approvals that, coincidentally, were all denied this week. He also had considerable debts with people who don't like not receiving payment on time. People who now know he no longer has my protection. You completely destroyed him. He bet wrong when he decided to betray me for revenge over his abusive brother," Adrian said simply. "He chose the wrong side of this war, and now he's paying the price for it." A few days later, Jax brought news that Nathan Stone had left the city completely ruined, fleeing from creditors and from people much more dangerous than he ever imagined existed. His company had gone bankrupt, his assets had been confiscated, and he had lost absolutely everything he'd built over the years. "That's what he deserved for trying to use you to get to me," Adrian said that night as we lay together in his bed for the first time since the attack on the mansion. His hand rested protectively on my belly where the baby was kicking lightly. "And now everyone in my world knows exactly what happens to those who try to mess with my family. Your family," I repeated softly. testing the words. Yes, he said, turning to look at me with all that intensity. You and our child, my family. The most important thing that exists to me. More important than territory, than power, than money. I'd choose you every time, Mira. In any situation, against any enemy. Every time. And in that moment, lying in his arms, feeling our baby move between us while the war had finally ended outside, I finally completely believed that maybe we really could make this work. That his love for me and the baby was strong enough to face anything his dangerous world threw our way. Phew, Victor was finally no longer a problem. But Mira and Adrian's story still had surprises in store. Chapter 9. Caleb's Last Attempt.
Leave this city.
3 weeks had passed since the war with Viktor Kozlov had ended, and finally it seemed things were truly calming down. I was almost 6 months pregnant now, my belly round and pronounced, making walking progressively more uncomfortable, but the baby was healthy and strong, according to all the tests Adrian's private doctor regularly performed. That specific Tuesday, I had a prenatal appointment scheduled at Dr. Sanders' office, one of the city's best obstetricians that Adrian had personally hired to take care of me throughout the pregnancy. Normally, Adrian accompanied me to all appointments, making a point to be present for every ultrasound and every check of the baby's development. But this time he had an urgent business meeting. He couldn't postpone. Jax will go with you, he said in the morning, while helping me put on shoes I could barely reach on my own because of my belly. And I'm sending 2 more guards with you. You won't be alone for a second. Adrian, it's just a routine medical appointment, I protested lightly. You don't need all this security apparatus. He held my face with both hands, making me look directly into his green eyes. After everything that's happened in recent weeks, I'm not going to risk anything when it comes to you and the baby. The guards are going, and it's not negotiable. I knew arguing would be useless, so I simply agreed, and let Adrian kiss me on the forehead before leaving for his meeting. Leah had agreed to accompany me to the appointment since Adrian couldn't go, so we stopped by her place on the way to the medical office. My sister got in the car all excited, talking non-stop about how anxious she was to see the baby's ultrasound, and asking if we'd already decided on definitive names. We're still considering options, I answered, as Jax carefully drove through the city's busy streets. Adrian wants to wait until we know for sure if it's a boy or girl before deciding the final name. Are you finding out the sex today? Leah asked with her eyes shining with excitement. Yes, Dr. Sanders said it's already clear enough to see. The appointment itself was calm and reassuring. Dr. Sanders did all the routine exams, checked my blood pressure and weight, and then finally turned on the ultrasound machine that showed our baby moving on the screen in black and white tones. Everything is perfect, the doctor announced with a warm smile. The baby is developing exactly as expected. And as for the sex, do you want to know? Yes, Leah and I answered at the same time, making the doctor laugh. It's a girl, he said, pointing at the screen. A healthy, strong girl. I felt tears of joy burn in my eyes. A girl. Adrian and I were going to have a daughter. I could barely wait to tell him, to see his reaction when he found out he'd be a father to a girl. We left the medical office with Leah practically jumping with happiness beside me, talking about how she was going to spoil her niece with presents and beautiful clothes. Jax walked a few steps behind us with the other 2 guards, always vigilant, always alert to any potential threat. It was when we reached the parking lot that everything fell apart. Caleb Stone was leaning against Jax's car, waiting for us with an appearance that deeply shocked me. He was unrecognizable compared to the arrogant man who had humiliated me at the supermarket months ago. His face was too thin, almost skeletal, with deep dark circles and stubble that suggested days without basic care. His clothes were dirty and wrinkled, hanging loose on a body that had lost weight in an unhealthy way. But what scared me most were his eyes. There was a desperate madness there, a wild desperation of someone who had absolutely nothing left to lose. Mira, he said when he saw me, his voice coming out hoarse and broken. I need to talk to you. Jax immediately positioned himself between me and Caleb, his hand automatically going to the gun hidden in his vest. You need to leave here now, Stone, before this ends very badly for you. I just want to talk to her, Caleb shouted, taking a stumbling step forward. Just 5 minutes. She owes me at least that after destroying my entire life. I don't owe you anything, I shouted back, anger and fear fighting inside me. You destroyed your own life with your horrible choices. That's when Leah exploded in a way I'd never seen before. My younger sister, who was normally all smiles and kindness, transformed into a protective fury that would make any mama bear proud. You don't get near my sister, she screamed, placing herself in front of me with her arms spread like a human shield. She's 6 months pregnant, you idiot. You think I'm going to let you stress her out or hurt her in any way? Caleb tried to get around Leah to reach me, but she wouldn't let him, pushing him back with surprising force. Mira, please, I lost everything. My job, my apartment, my money, everything. And it's all your fault for getting involved with that criminal. It's not her fault. It's your fault for being an abuser, Leah shouted back, And then it happened so fast I could barely process it. Caleb tried to get past Leah again, this time with more force, and my sister reacted on instinct, landing a punch directly on his nose that made blood immediately gush out. Caleb staggered backwards screaming, his hands going to his bleeding nose. But then, the desperate madness in his eyes increased even more, and he tried to lunge in my direction again, completely irrational. Jax and the other guards acted instantly, grabbing Caleb and throwing him to the ground with professional force. I was shaking violently, one hand protectively on my belly where I felt our daughter kicking, scared by all the adrenaline running through my body. That's when I heard the sound of tires screeching on asphalt, and saw Adrian's car enter the parking lot at dangerous speed, stopping abruptly right next to the whole scene. Adrian got out of the vehicle before it even stopped completely, his eyes finding mine first, checking if I was okay, before turning to Caleb being held on the ground by Jax. The transformation on Adrian's face was absolutely terrifying. I had never seen that level of pure and uncontrolled fury in him before. He crossed the distance between the car and where Caleb was in 3 large and violent steps, ripping the man from Jax's hands and throwing him against the car hood with brutal force. "You tried to get to her while pregnant?" Adrian roared with a voice that didn't sound even remotely human. "You dared show up here and try to touch the pregnant mother of my child?" Caleb tried to speak, tried to explain, but Adrian interrupted him by pressing his forearm against his throat with controlled but threatening force. "I promised her I wouldn't physically hurt you, that I'd let you leave in one piece, but you just broke the only protection you had, Stone. You came after her while pregnant." "Adrian, don't!" I shouted, finding my voice despite the fear paralyzing my body. "You promised. You said you wouldn't use violence." Adrian looked at me over his shoulder, and I saw the struggle happening inside him, the murderous fury fighting against the promise he'd made me. Slowly, very slowly, he loosened the pressure on Caleb's neck, but didn't release him completely. "You're very lucky she asked for you," Adrian said with a deadly and controlled voice now. "Because if it was just up to me, you wouldn't leave this parking lot alive." He pulled Caleb by the collar of his dirty shirt, dragging him until they were face to face. "But even so, this ends now. You're leaving this city today. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. And if I find out you came back, if I see you anywhere near Mira again, the promise I made her doesn't count anymore. Understand?" Caleb nodded desperately, tears mixing with the blood still running from his broken nose. "I will. I'll leave. Just let me go." Adrian threw him to the ground with disdain. "Jax, make sure he gets on the first bus, train, or any transport out of the city. I don't care where he goes. Just make sure it's far from here." "Yes, boss," Jax responded, already pulling Caleb from the ground and dragging him to one of the security cars. As soon as Caleb disappeared from sight, Adrian came straight to me, his hands running over my face, my arms, my belly, frantically checking if I was hurt in any way. "Are you okay? Did he touch you? Hurt you?" "I'm fine," I answered with my voice shaking. "Leah protected me. She hit him before he got close." Adrian looked at Leah with deep gratitude. "Thank you for protecting my family." Leah just nodded, still pumping with adrenaline from the fight. "Always, Adrian. I'll always protect my sister and my niece." "Niece?" Adrian asked, turning to me with wide eyes. Through the tears, I managed to smile. "It's a girl. Dr. Sanders confirmed it today. We're having a daughter." The expression on Adrian's face changed completely, all the anger and fury instantly melting away, to give way to a pure and unguarded joy. "A girl," he repeated with a voice hoarse with emotion. "We're having a daughter." He pulled me into a careful but tight hug, one hand protectively on my belly where our daughter was kicking. "It's over, Mira. Caleb is gone forever. You're safe. You're both safe." And finally, after months of fear and threats and constant danger, I believed it was really over. Chapter 10. Happy Ending Plus.
She's everything.
Baby 6 months later. I was 9 months pregnant, huge and uncomfortable, and absolutely ready to meet our daughter when the first contraction started in the middle of the night, waking me with a sharp pain that cut through my abdomen like a sharp blade. "Adrian," I called, touching his shoulder. "Adrian, wake up. I think it's time." He woke instantly, his eyes widening as he processed my words. "Time? Time for... oh my God, time for the baby!" In the following minutes, Adrian went into complete panic mode in a way that would have been hilarious if I weren't in increasingly intense pain. He ran back and forth across the room, grabbing the hospital bag that had been ready for weeks, dropping half the things on the floor, tripping over his own feet, breathing so fast he seemed on the verge of a panic attack. "Breathe. Just breathe deep," he said to himself while helping me down the stairs. "No, wait. I need to breathe. You too. We both need to breathe." Even through the pain of another contraction, I couldn't help but laugh. "You face mob bosses and territory wars without blinking, but you're panicking over childbirth? This is different," he protested while helping me into the car. "This is you and our daughter. This is truly important." Labor was long and exhausting and painful in ways I wasn't completely prepared for despite all the books I'd read. Adrian stayed by my side every second, holding my hand while I squeezed hard enough to probably break some bones, murmuring words of encouragement even when I screamed that all of this was his fault. And then, after hours that felt like entire days, I finally heard the most beautiful cry in the world echoing through the delivery room. "It's a girl," the doctor announced, holding up the baby so we could see. "A perfectly healthy girl." They quickly cleaned her and placed her on my chest, and when I looked at that small, perfect face for the first time, I felt my heart explode with a love so intense I could barely breathe. She had her eyes closed, her face red from crying so much, small clenched fists waving in the air. "She's perfect," Adrian said beside me, with his voice completely broken with emotion. And when I looked at him, I saw tears running freely down his face. "Our daughter is absolutely perfect, just like her father," I answered, smiling through my own tears. When the nurse took the baby to do the final health checks, Adrian followed every movement with hawk eyes, clearly not wanting to let our daughter out of his sight for even a second. And when they finally placed her in his arms for the first time, I saw something fundamentally change in the most dangerous man in the city. Adrian Wolf, the feared czar who commanded the underworld with an iron fist, held our tiny daughter with a delicacy and reverence that made it seem like she was made of the most fragile glass in the universe. Tears still ran down his face as he looked at the baby with pure and unguarded adoration. In the private hospital room a few hours later, Leah arrived like a hurricane of excitement, practically running to my bed where I was holding the baby already cleaned and dressed in a tiny pink onesie. "I'm an aunt," she shouted with her eyes shining. "Let me see. Let me hold my beautiful niece." Adrian, who was sitting beside the bed with his hand possessively on my shoulder, immediately tensed. "Be careful with her head, Leah. Support her neck properly." Leah rolled her eyes, taking the baby in her arms with experienced movements. "Adrian, I know how to hold a baby. I've taken care of several children before, but this is my daughter," he murmured, and I saw his hands move restlessly as if he wanted to take the baby back immediately. I couldn't help but laugh, seeing the most powerful and dangerous man I knew completely melted and overprotective with his daughter who was only a few hours old. "Adrian, she's our daughter's aunt. Let her enjoy it." A few weeks later, back at the mansion with our daughter finally home, I was sitting in the nursing chair in her room watching Adrian rock the sleeping baby in his arms with an expression of absolute peace on his face. "Have you thought of any definitive name yet?" I asked quietly, so as not to wake her. "I'm still deciding between a few options," he answered, without taking his eyes off our daughter. He made a long pause before continuing. "Mira, marry me?" The question caught me completely by surprise. "What?" Adrian finally looked at me, still carefully holding the baby. He didn't have a ring, hadn't prepared an elaborate speech. It was just him asking me to marry him in the middle of our daughter's room at 2 a.m. "You're the mother of my daughter, the woman I love more than anything in this world. So marry me, officially, forever." "Adrian, I know my world is dangerous," he interrupted me, his voice becoming more intense. "I know it's not the life you imagined for yourself, but I protect you, Mira. I'll always protect you and our daughter from anything and anyone. They can try to attack us, they can try to separate us, but they'll never succeed because I'll fight until my last breath to keep you both safe." Tears started falling down my face. "Yes, Adrian. Yes, I'll marry you." He smiled, that rare and genuine smile that was only mine, and leaned in to kiss me with our daughter still in his arms, creating a perfect moment I would keep in my memory forever. 1 year later, the charity event was packed with important people, and I circulated through the hall with a confidence I never imagined having, my postpartum body wearing an elegant dress that made me look beautiful, without trying to hide the changes motherhood had brought. Adrian was by my side with his hand possessively on my waist, our wedding rings shining under the chandelier lights. A reporter approached with a polite smile. "Mira Wolf, what's it like being the wife of the city's most powerful man?" I smiled, thinking about the question. "It's being loved unconditionally, protected fiercely, and respected completely." "And what about your ex-boyfriend Caleb Stone? We heard he tried to cause problems in the past." I pretended to think for a second before answering. "Caleb who?" Adrian laughed softly beside me. "Exactly. That night, back at the mansion watching Adrian rock our 1-year-old daughter while singing softly to her, I thought about how everything had changed since that day at the supermarket. Caleb had humiliated me for being fat, without knowing I was carrying the air of the city's most powerful man. He had tried to systematically destroy my self-esteem for years, but I had found a man who saw me as perfect, exactly the way I was. The ex had lost absolutely everything. I had gained everything. And Adrian Wolf, the czar who had never loved anyone before, had learned that love was worth infinitely more than any territory or power, because I wasn't the weight he carried. I was the light he protected. Now I've put together some really interesting trivia for you. So if you like fun facts and Easter eggs, you're going to love what I'm about to tell you. The story has 4 main villains: Caleb, the abusive ex; Bianca, the jealous ex-mistress; Nathan, the vengeful brother; and Victor, the big rival. so you could see how much our lovebirds suffered before they could be together. This next fun fact I doubt you noticed. Mira never knew Adrian's full last name until she became Mira Wolf. Leah was the only character who threatened to kill Adrian and lived to tell the tale. The first time Adrian says "I love you" is in public, not in private. Adrian never takes anyone's life directly in this story. But I can't reveal anything about the other ones. The baby's gender is revealed in Chapter 9, but the baby girl's name is never revealed in the story. Who knows? Maybe you'll find out in the future. Mira runs away in fear of the dangerous world, but becomes the queen of that world. The story has one complete flashback, and you realize how this was a love as intense as it was sudden. Mira's answer, Caleb who, at the end, mirrors how she completely overcame the trauma and is ready for a new life without adventures. But will she be able to achieve that? And to watch another unmissable story, click on the video that appears now on your screen and check it out.